I can't, I'll talk about it on.
Yeah, no.
Good morning, everyone. Hold on a second, let me just get out our agenda for today. It is March 18th, Wednesday, March 19th, excuse me, I do apologize, it's the wrong date on the agenda. 7:30 a.m. This is the Police Advisory Committee. I'm Rebecca Starr, Chair. If everyone could just go around for the recording and introduce themselves in case anyone is listening.
Ken Verbitsky, Secretary. Or should I get the computer open?
Katie Skeel, Vice Chair.
Cheryl Bullitt. And we also have someone in present. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, John Frenchy, please.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I'm going to be candid up front. I have to keep this meeting moving. It'll probably be a short meeting. I have a funeral that I need to get to that in Judaism you find out about them very last minute. So I couldn't reschedule us in enough time. So thank you for helping me get out the door. Ken circulated the minutes yesterday from our last meeting. Has everyone been able to review them, or do they want to review them now?
My apologies.
Like that.
I can take can I have a minute to review them?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So I noticed in the minutes that, I guess the notes that I took away from the last meeting were like, research 911. So that's what I focused on. I noticed here it said, to talk to Kelsey about the suggestion box.
Suggestions,
The
right.
anonymous. I did not do that. I think in my head I was thinking the website's going to be redone. There's a whole redesign on the way. That was like
I think that's correct.
that wasn't the biggest priority to focus on website stuff, but I can talk to her just to see like if there's an intermediate fix.
Yeah, I think that maybe at this point we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So anyway, thank you, Ken, for reminding me of all the things I hadn't actually.
Well, to be fair, we didn't do a timeline on any of those.
We
There
didn't
was
do a
long-term plan homework.
That's true. We didn't do a timeline, and that's why I wanted to meet today, because some of this stuff happens as we meet.
Yeah,
To keep things moving.
but they're great notes. They're very detailed. I approve when we get to that point. So. Sorry, did anyone else want an agenda?
Is there, no, I'm sorry, can I even ask, is anyone online?
There are no online.
They look fine to me. I can't open them. I can't open them up on my phone.
Okay. I'm trying to think for a second how to do this so that if we want to approve them, and I want you to review them before we approve them and give your comment.
Can I scan them on somebody's laptop?
Yeah, let me pull them up. Here.
Can I move to approve?
Yes, you've reviewed them, sure?
Yes.
Okay,
I move to approve, Ken's minutes for the last meeting.
thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? No. Okay, minutes pass. Community comment. So I am wondering, I didn't know that you were gonna be here. Officer, so can you use this opportunity to give us any sort of update?
Just in general on the department or?
Sure.
Uh,
Or anything that you wanna ask of us to be helping you with?
I'll just, because some of the things I think we've discussed in the past as far as changes in the department, we have completed the evidence transfer, so now we have an updated evidence, and we're able to effectively store things, which is a bonus. We're not shoving things in the closet anymore. So that's been complete. We're working on taking advantage of that newfound space that we have to maybe make another little office downstairs. We, last month, I guess it's been about 4 weeks now, started the new report management system, which obviously is a little bit of a learning curve to that. It's much more updated. Just, we were dealing with a 20-year-old system, so we're trying to learn the ins and outs of it. So there is some, the monthly reports that we're putting out have changed drastically in that the old system used to have like hundreds of codes. The new system is very refined and, you don't have 10 codes for somebody taking something from a car. So.
Thank you.
Yes. So it's going to just be someone took something from a car and we identify that in the monthly report. So you may see that change coming in. If you check the monthly reports that go to council, as far as any new updates, we're obviously getting in the swing of all the community events. We're having multiple meetings for Memorial Day Parade. We've already started talking about 4th of July, a lot of the other community things that are happening and making sure that, we are either A, involved or B, providing whatever services necessary.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm thrilled about the evidence room.
Yes.
That's a bigger issue than I think most people realize. So
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you I'm glad we were able to help you broach that.
Yes. Thank you.
Still no one online for community comment?
Correct.
Okay, wonderful. Moving along to action items, the FAQ webpage. So I went to Public Health and Safety meeting last Friday and was able to ask just a little bit about the timeline. So they're still working, and I'm sorry, at the moment I'm forgetting the name of the company, and I had asked for some sort of samples, and I will get that to everyone. I don't have it with me right here. But the timeline is they're still working on mapping the site. And so they're going to come to departments and committees. I guess they're no sooner than 2 months from now for the date for what to put in. So in terms of timeline, this does not have to happen yesterday. This is something that we can continue to work on. But I think it would be great, since we're already discussing it, if we sort of had relative plug and play by the time they're asking for it.
Right.
So what that means is we need to continue to figure out what is the FAQ versus what is information that we just think belongs on the police department webpage. I expect, not having done this before, but I expect that they will give us a format when they're looking for us, so we having our ideas in line and we can always revise to whatever format they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I know that we did have this draft FAQ and we had a whole bunch of comments on it, including comments about other things that we want to see where they go, like animals, how to stay informed, that may not in fact be FAQs, but need to be on the website. Where are we with that, Kelly?
So I focused more on the 911 stuff.
Okay, fine.
I did notice.
As it turns out, that's appropriate.
I did notice that there were a couple of, because I was looking at like a lot of other municipalities' police pages to figure out how they communicate about how to contact the police, emergency versus non-emergency. So I was sort of more focused on that. But while I was doing that, I did notice that some of them had in their FAQs, how do I get a copy of a police report? And I think that was, I'm not sure if that was something that had come up in our.
We haven't discussed, I don't remember discussing that.
So that was one that I noted, and I guess it just put me in mind of like, maybe we should keep this pretty focused on like an FAQ about the police and not so much about like what every ordinance in Narberth is, you know, because we were starting to get into like, what are the noise ordinances, what, you know, so yeah, when we sort of figure out like, okay, what is information that should be on the website and accessible, and what is stuff that
So
should
the
be-
police report is in the draft that the chief sent us, number 3.
I'll have to look for that now, because I haven't looked at it in a while. Okay, so you were on that. But it just made me think like, okay, yeah, we really should try to think about like, what are the things people really need to know about?
So I will confirm, but my understanding is that we can work on something like this, not in meeting, because
Yeah.
it's a document, you know, but I will confirm that that would not be in violation of the Sunshine Act. And if that is true, then we can work on this as a Google Doc
Right,
outside of committee.
and then in committee, we can present drafts.
We can present
and
drafts.
Comment on them and kind of go back.
Right, I think that, you know, we're not, by doing this, we are not discussing the substance of the policies, we're merely discussing how to report them, so I think that we can work on that, but I'll double check that.
Yeah. Charlotte, do you come across?
I have to apologize that I did not do my assignment, but I will by the end of this week.
I mean, what I noticed was a lot of municipalities don't have an FAQ. So, we're already winning. We have some,
Great, and look, this is not stagnant, like, it goes up, we can see that it doesn't work, we can change it.
okay.
All right, so I'm going to say that we're gonna gotten as far as we can in the meeting today. If we can discuss it on a Google Doc, I will do that and then send an email around where we're at, okay? Otherwise, I can just redraft and figure out where we're at for the next meeting. 911 plan. From my understanding, you've been pushing out with Kelsey's help, you know, 911 for everything.
Yes.
One of the questions that we had at the last meeting was, you know, how frequent is it that you have a message that should have been 911, you know, that didn't get responded to in a timely fashion? Like, we're trying to figure out, like, how much of a problem, like, because we're still talking, is there another system? Like, is there a way? But we don't really have a sense of the scope of the problem.
Maybe a couple times a month,
Okay.
3 or 4.
I mean, look, we missed one emergency, that's a huge issue. but-
So I guess, let me clarify. We are fortunate that we don't have somebody calling saying that, you know, somebody's breaking into my house. The ones that, when I say 3 or 4 times a month, it's somebody calling to say, someone broke into my car and took something, I need to make a report. And now when they call through the system, it says, you know, if you're calling to file a report, you need to see an officer, even if it's not an emergency, please hang up and dial 911. But they pass that and go through and then get to the voicemail list and then kind of just pick a number and leave a message with somebody. So we try to advise them at that point. We do still get calls where someone needs to see an officer. It's not a crime in progress, it's just a report, and they will leave a message. And unfortunately, if they pick somebody that's off for the next like 3 days, depending on the schedule, that's when we hear, oh, I called them with a message and no one got back to me. So we're fortunate that we don't get like emergencies where someone's saying, help me now, but we aren't directing them to 911 effectively, I guess, for those times where we'd like to get an officer there within 15 minutes.
Right, I mean, my neighbor was complaining, like,
Yeah.
someone broke in my car, my daughter's car, I called the police, they didn't come. I was like, well, it's not call 911.
Yeah. So that would be the thing, if we could somehow, that's the message we're trying to get out, like call 911 for everything. So
How many, so you talked about a few messages a month that are missed. how many people are calling the police in general for the things that, I hear you on the 911 the emergency that we used to think of 911 calls are going that way. But how many calls a month for the non-emergency ones that we're trying to drive to 911, but people don't?
That would be like 3 or 4.
Okay, so not just the ones that, not just a few messages, but only 3 or 4 months a month in general.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, only 3 and 4 a month are non-emergencies being called by 911.
3 or 4 month calls to the police that should have gone to 911, as we say it, but haven't. So it's a problem and not a huge problem.
Correct.
Okay.
So sometimes, so if somebody calls and somebody's like on duty, like they will pick up, or does it always go to voicemail?
So it depends. So now when they call, there's gonna be 6 different voicemails and
Yeah.
there's no rhyme or reason
Yeah.
as to which one they're picking. So if the person's on duty and the desk phone's ringing, they'll pick it up and answer it.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, sometimes people will hop from desk to desk if someone's phone's ringing and try to grab it in time.
So there are like actual phones, these aren't just somebody's cell phone?
No, so is a desk phone.
Okay.
And does it ring if there's no one in? Is there, I remember a conversation that, I think it was when Kelsey was hired, that part of her responsibility was going to be, and this is what I do remembering incorrectly, was going to be to answer the phone. If it's office hours, does it ring to her desk?
No, and I don't understand this, the ring down system or whatever. There is no police line. So there's no way for, like,
Right.
there's that general number, and then if you hit the button for police, it just takes you to a voicemail message. Like, there is no, like, police number, if that makes sense. Because the thought was, we could just say, if you call Margaret Police Monday through Friday, during business hours, it would ring at Kelsey's desk.
Right.
But there is no number for that. It's just a borough number, and then,
So there's no direct police number, it just rings, because I had to call the borough for something else,
Yes.
and it actually says if this is an emergency, dial 911, is the,
Yes.
is the original message. But that,
Yeah, I couldn't
there's
find.
no separate phone number for
on
the
the
police.
website.
correct, yeah.
That's,
Can I
seems
ask,
like an easy thing.
I would agree with that, but also, if we're telling everyone to call 911, I'm curious, what's the incident that I should call and leave a message for one of the officers, as opposed to calling 911?
Good question.
The only time is a follow-up, if you need to, and then,
Fine.
I would rather send everything to 911. The ones that I don't think are a great issue, if someone calls in with a traffic concern, and someone says, hey, they're speeding on my street, or, there was a violation of the school bus, they'll leave a message for that, and obviously that can be followed up later. I'd rather err on the side of that going to 911, because an officer can get dispatched, take that information, and immediately they're aware of it. So if anything, I'd rather shift more that way, because we're providing more of an immediate response.
Yeah.
But those, to your point, those are the ones where, okay, if it's a message, we can follow up and, the next business day.
I mean, I think it would be useful to have a separate number for the police, but as long as we provide like appropriate wording around, like, this is for follow-up.
I
or this
disagree.
is for,
I think that's too complicated, and especially with all of our mindsets still being, when do I call 911? And I think it should be, and the problem with that is that somebody leaves a message, your neighbor tells you, and how many of us have heard that? I've heard that too. So it spreads more like, it spreads that, oh, the police don't respond, why bother calling? So I think that, and messaging is so difficult, and it takes, marketing people will tell you how many times it takes for somebody to really hear that message. I'm one of those people, and to really pay attention to it, and then do something, then accept it. So
I mean, and like we talked about, our kids are still, my kid is still being taught 911 is just for emergency.
Right.
Now that he knows it's for everything, every time we see
right.
anything, it's like call 911, call 911.
So it just is like, I think too many numbers. I think everything, especially since you also say that, Chief, it's just like, you'd rather err if there's any error at all, on everything going to 911.
This is why, the 311 things made sense to me. It doesn't financially, apparently, but.
And nowhere, at least from trying to Google it, I could not find any local municipality in our area that does 311. Philadelphia does it,
Yeah.
yeah.
but Montgomery County Call Center is a great website, nothing on that, like, I couldn't find anything about it.
Yeah. So, but I guess I was just speaking to the chief's point about like, if there was a separate number, then it could be answered during the day more easily.
How many of those 3 to 4 come in during office hours? I mean, I'm asking you to approximate. I'm not gonna hold you to this as a data point, but.
I don't know, like, I just total guess, I'd say maybe, a third of them are during normal business hours. You know,
Important for us also to note right now, this is after years of people thinking that, one, being told to call 911, and two, knowing that if they call the local police that there's no answer or there's not a good process on that. So if there was a way that we call a borough office during the daytime to talk to someone, that might change behavior. I agree with you that it'll be completely confusing. But it also might change behavior because if there's a person that actually answers, that might drive people in a certain way.
That's true. I mean, this just seems fundamental to me, like, we're a small community. We have community policing. We want people to feel, like, what should set us apart is that we want people to feel like they're being heard and answered and can reach us and communicate. But there's no direct way to call the police. Like, that just seems.
Facebook messages.
That just seems anathema to what we're trying to foster in Norwood.
Well, maybe in the FAQ, we could solve for that a little bit, like, if you really want to talk to a police officer, there are these 6 numbers that you can pick one. These all go to an individual officer and we'll have.
Do the officers want individual voicemail?
I mean, I think it's necessary.
I think it's necessary
I think
because you're following up, okay.
Yeah.
Standard, I mean, just from.
Well, it is
what I
standard,
saw
but that
in other
doesn't-
Municipalities.
Just because things are done that way doesn't mean that's the best way to do them. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely easier. So coming from Lower Merion, officers did not have voicemail. There was just too many. So you would tell someone to call in and the person taking the phone call will give you a piece of paper, like, oh, this person called you. You know what I mean? It's not.
Phone message.
I know, I love it. Right?
So it is nicer having the voicemail
Okay.
this way. If it's specific for that officer, they're going to get the message. You don't have to worry about paper getting lost or whatever.
But to me, there should be another link in there, which is like, here's the borough number, and then choose one for the police department, and then you listen to the police department. If this is for a specific officer, choose 101 for officer so-and-so, 102 for officer,
Now, again, I don't know. So initially they said we couldn't have another number because everything is funneled through. I don't know if it's like a line coming in or whatever the case may be, but we have one number. I don't know if there's a way, because you addressed, initially, you call the borough right away, you say if it's an emergency, please hang up, dial 911. Then you start getting those drop downs. If you want the police department at this, if you want the, codes at this. I don't know if there's a way to say if it's during normal business hours, press 7 and,
See, no one really listens to the messages.
well, that kid.
You mean?
So there's 3 instances where we tell people to call 911.
Right.
On the first opening one, when you select the police, and then generally, like on my voicemail, it'll say, this is a voicemail, it's not actively monitored continuously. If you need to speak with an officer, please hang up dial 911. So 3 times the message is played to that, and I'll still get messages saying someone left, or someone broke into my car.
Because some of us don't think of that as an emergency. We think of an emergency as flashing lights. I mean, an ambulance is.
No, but he says specifically if you need to reach an officer, he doesn't
Right,
say if it's an
we don't necessarily
Yeah.
hear the message. It's nobody, I mean, I'm just describing how I could be that person.
Well, maybe, is this more to the point then, what's the message have to be? Is there a more effective message that the public's going to say, okay, this makes sense to me? Because to me, and again, you take it from, if you need to see an officer, you need to hang up dial 911. And that makes sense to me. I don't know what we need to say.
To the,
Yeah, maybe it needs to be more detailed. Like, I try to keep it brief. Maybe it needs to be, this is only a voicemail message or voicemail, like an officer will not respond immediately
I mean, I don't know, like, if you need to speak with, if you need to reach a police officer immediately, I don't know what the right language is, but
I think it needs to be, I mean, I don't know if this is realistic, but it needs to be plastered everywhere.
Okay, so one issue is the messages, and I do know that the after hour message, and Katie and I went back and forth on this, because the after hour message is just, if this is an emergency, dial 911, which to me implies, if there's any other reason you need the police, don't dial 911.
So
But she had gotten to it from a different place, and it's a different message.
I think, so I think when you, because as you mentioned, there are different layers. I think when you do the first call, it'll say if it's an emergency, dial 911, because they're trying to like make sure people get to that. But there was somewhere else in the menu where it says press 2 to speak with police, or dial 911 if the issue is currently occurring. And so that language, I kind of noted that down as like, well, okay, currently occurring means like it's something that's currently in your mind, but I think, but that's the direction I took is like, well, what are other phrases that might even be stronger than
The
current?
other thing from what you just said though, if our messaging is really call 911 for everything, nowhere on our voicemail should it say if this is an emergency, call 911, because that really doesn't apply. If it's not an emergency, don't.
Call 911.
I get what, most people I think know to call 911 in an
That's
emergency.
true, yeah.
Mhm.
Yes,
So-
I think that's right.
Although every doctor's office also has a, if this is a,
Well, there's probably some
yeah.
liability.
But that's
Since they also might be the
But
same.
that goes to my point, which is, there should be a way, I'm sure we could figure it out, where that message is on the outside of the door, of the municipal building. It's on the outside of the door of the library. So it's like, that way, somebody's walking around Narberth. Another way is at every single event that the police are at, there's a table or a banner, like messaging from all, and then there's really upfront on whatever the Narberth Police Facebook page is, whatever any Facebook page that's related to Narberth, like the Lormetter, the newsletter that comes from Narberth, it's like a campaign.
So let me ask you I think that's a great point that it needs to be multi-layered. 2 questions. First of all, it seems to me that we need to shore up the phone tree so that there is the right message and consistent on all the prompts. Who is in charge of that? Is that something that you listen to, or should I just be talking to Maggie? Should we just be talking to Maggie and Kelsey about that?
Well, I mean, I'm happy to relay the message too. It comes ETT, so we have to reach out to them and get them to change it. The only thing that we can change is our individual voicemail messages.
Okay.
So they have to change all the other.
And who is the communication, like who is in charge of that contact? And it's not in a job description.
Yeah, probably Maggie would be.
Maggie, okay. So I can make that recommendation I have to see if I can make it to Maggie or if I need to bring it to public health and safety to bring it to Maggie, so I'll check up on that. Second of all, do you think I think it would be beneficial to have a police number that is separate from the general Narberth number. Do you see benefit in that?
I think it would give us a little bit more control over the messaging, and it would be a little less like press 1, press 2, press 3. Because right now you got to go through like 3 drop-down menus to kind of get to the police department. So that might be a little more effective. And my hope would be that we could get that to ring during normal business hours to Kelsey. And then after that, it would kind of go out to that phone tree.
Okay, so I want to move that we present to public health and safety these 2 communication recommendations. One, that the phone tree be reviewed so that all of the messages are clear regarding 911. And 2, that the police department be assigned a direct number unique from the borough number that is then answered during the day.
That would also allow us, if we wanted to forward that line to an officer, most likely. So if there's an officer on duty, there's still the challenge of if they're in the middle of something, they're clearly not answering their phone. But if they're patrolling, they could actually get the call forwarded to them, which might or might not be of help.
Okay.
Okay. With that addition, is there a second to my motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, discussion. It has to be discussion.
No, I mean, I think, I think it would help some things, and I think to our points about like, that could be confusing. I think there are ways to like, first of all, you can kind of like vary that number as like, this is just the police office line. This is not to contact the police, like, this is not. Because I think, I mean, if we want to talk about wording and some of the notes I came up with about wording, like,
Please.
that there are ways to improve that. And if we do have a police number, like, I think I saw some bad practices on other municipalities' websites where they kind of feature that number alongside 911, almost like, hey, pick one.
Right, but we don't want to do
We
that.
don't want to do that.
No.
So I think it would be like 911 is still like for, you know, assistance from the police, call this number. And then the other number would be like way down at the bottom of the webpage is like, this is the administrative number, or this is the
Yeah, you can see that,
office
police
number,
administrative office
or
number.
something, you know, like
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, when you say administrative, it gives you a different idea, right?
something that makes it sound like this is just if you want to call and ask for like a copy of your report from a thing 2 months ago, like whatever, you know,
How many people just knock on the door still?
It varies. The other day, I think we had 6 people just come into the station.
Because I feel like this would also prevent that, not prevent that, but maybe cut down on that.
Yeah, I don't know, some people just like to come in person.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so, but now we do have, at either door, we have 2 signs that says if you don't get in, somebody knock their bell off. Normally it says ring the bell, if you don't get an answer, call 911. So that seems to be a little bit more effective, we put them up maybe a year ago. And we will get calls now, like, if we're out, the dispatch will say someone's at your station. So that has helped a little bit. I will say, I think people still, because Kelsey will say that somebody goes down, knocks on the door, walks over to the borough office, and she's like, oh, just call 911, and they're like, no, and they leave. So, you know, she tries to like, hey, let me try to call them or whatever, but she has a list of who's on duty and can try to reach out to them directly, but people
It
sometimes
feels
are.
weird to me that 911 has become sort of like your de facto secretary.
That's exactly it. And I think
It
I
just
would be the
doesn't feel
person who
right
would
to me.
knock, because maybe I just have like something that I feel like is not an emergency, like you would go to
I
an
mean, this is
office.
what they want, this is what you want, and this is what the communication plan is. I think we need to work with that. I don't think we
But
need
it's
to, we can
against
solve
all
it, but
our-
it feels really weird to
Yeah.
me that
Yeah,
call 911 just because I need a report at the police department or I want to
Good call
know.
center.
I mean, that's.
I'm sorry.
Good call center.
like,
but we have in our brain.
Anyways, it is what it is, but,
If someone calls 911 for, and like, I'm trying to think, like, they have a moving truck coming in 2 weeks and need to get cones or something. The county will take the call and put it in and they'll just send it to the computer and say, call by phone. You know what I mean? They'll say there's a phone call pending, they call these people back. Like, it's just, it happens.
right, so 911 is now not an emergency line, it's the police call center.
Kinda, yeah. Like somebody the other day, we were joking, the trains were stopped because there was a accident on the tracks, and someone from the train was calling 911 saying, I want to know how long the train's gonna be stopped. And like, those calls just get generated and get put in, and
And that's good, right? And that's what
they want.
that's the most effective thing for us, because then we don't miss anything. That's, you know, I'd rather shift it all that way. So maybe to the point of this, and kind of talking the administrative aspect of it, if we're gonna err on the side of one way or the other, I'd say err on pushing everything on one, because then we don't miss anything.
So
I'd
that we
rather,
should not have a separate.
you
Well,
know,
we shouldn't have a second number,
I mean,
And then the message,
except you think it would be beneficial to have the second number.
here's the needle I'm trying to thread. If people are so reluctant to call 911 that no matter what, if we put on the website, call 911 if you need to talk to me, and they're still like, I'm not gonna do it, well then, maybe we do need
We
that
do need
second
it.
number. So that's where I'm trying, like, I'm just saying, if we're pushing out that message, push everyone to 911, and then if we get the second number, maybe it is
just listed on the police website and that's it.
Or-
you know?
But even with that message, I don't know if the message has to be like, you know, this call will not be returned
Oh,
within 48 hours or
like your
something.
doctor's notice.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know if we have to kind of be abrupt with it. You will not receive a call in 48 hours. If you need a response within that time, call 911. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that works.
And that messaging about 911 is the new, what,
No, not police call center.
police call center,
It's
that,
no longer an
that's the
emergency number,
message.
it's a police call center.
Yeah.
That is the message.
The only problem is, it's the message here.
Right.
You go into a different area, like, but that's the case of all of it.
Is this best practices nationally?
I don't know about nationally.
No.
So I don't know if, so everyone's Philadelphia has 311. I think Delaware County still has a 10-digit call number. So, but
Okay,
it goes to the county still.
I see, okay.
So I reached out about getting the 10-digit number to post to get to the dispatchers, and they were like, no, they'd rather do 911.
Okay.
My understanding from them is it's just one more thing to manage, and
But on the county level,
yeah, the county, unless you have, so Lower Merions of the world where they have somebody there 24 hours a day just to answer the phone, that's all, they're doing at this point. They answer the phone and they watch the prisoners. So they can go and say, call this for 91000, but if you say anything about, I need an officer, hold on, and then they're just gonna transfer it to 911. So,
and 911 is managed by the county.
yes. Now, Lower Merion can do that, and like, there's a couple other Upper Merion can, because they have, Lower Merion has a call taker station, they have 3 in their building, so they can route calls up to the county effectively. Anybody else, it's just gonna be a hold on, and they can do a call forward or something. So, but that's why a lot of these other smaller agencies, you're gonna just call
So
911.
then this is the message the county should be pushing out. I mean, to me, this is part of what the county's responsibility is.
They do have an incredible website really doing that.
They have a website, but
I
that
know.
doesn't mean they're pushing out the message.
Right. Right.
I don't know that I've heard anything from Montgomery County about anything though, so.
You
Like,
don't go to it, it doesn't come from you, right?
that's the 9:30 meeting I have.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, but the county comm center for the monthly meeting, so I can just ask them, I said, maybe they did it years ago, and now they're kind of like, yeah, I can bring it up and say, hey, listen, this is something that we are seeing that people aren't aware that they should call 911.
So,
I
so the
think that,
Montgomery County website is pretty good about communicating what it is they do. I noticed that the Ready PA website, they say it's for emergency only. You're just like, you guys are Ready PA, like this is your business and you're not communicating, so it could be that it's different across counties. So Pennsylvania doesn't know how to have a cohesive message about this because it is different for each county. Montgomery County and City of Philadelphia use 911 for non-emergency stuff, but other counties maybe don't.
Well, so Philly has 311 and Delco has a 10-digit.
So
So between the
Philly,
3 of us, it's a different procedure.
so Philly says, this is their wording, 911 is the city's hub for emergency services, whether for crime, fire, or medical emergencies. 911 also handles non-emergency calls.
Oh, okay.
So that's, I don't think, so they also handles non-emergency calls for police and fire. So they are specifying so obviously they have other numbers for animal control or, whatever. But they are saying non-emergency in their language.
I think that you should bring this, I can't say you should, I would love if you brought this up, because this to me is, the county is, we're this big, the county is this big, and this is consistent across the county. We can't be the only borough in Montgomery County who has an issue like this. And if Montgomery County has this great website and is managing this great call center, people need to know that.
Yes.
So, without going looking for it. So I would be interested to hear I'd be interested if there's a way to kind of run this up the flagpole to get broader coverage than us just trying to solve this on our own.
Yeah, and this could be followed, because I brought up the 311 thing a while ago, and, that, they said, no, it's not 911. So maybe this is a follow-up to that. Hey, we're trying to follow what you're saying, but the message isn't getting out there. Can you support it?
That'd be great, thank you.
Did anyone have a chance to look at some of the notes.
Just 1 second, we have not actually, we were in discussion on your motion, I don't think we actually ever passed the motion.
That's true.
Oh, okay,
That's true. Thank you, Ken.
this was the discussion on it.
Is there anything, about whether we want to send something? Are we still, the motion is to send a recommendation to public health and safety, A, to shore up the phone tree, and B, to have a unique police department administrative number. With all of the discussion that we've just had, or with the summary of the discussion that we've just had.
Have we decided about the police administration number? Do we still feel like
That's the question.
That's the
Right.
question.
that's, you're making a motion?
That, I have that motion on the table.
Right,
which
and
is-
which is, have we decided here that we think that's a good idea, or is the
What do
motion
you
that?
think? You think it's a good idea?
I'm listening to Chief String, and I thought I heard that he would say with these difficulties that he would still prefer not to, is that right? And just really have everything go through 911.
I kind of throw it more back at your feet.
You sorry?
I kind of throw it back at your feet. I said, if
Okay, that's,
if it's a matter of people are gonna be reluctant to call 911, no matter how much we tell them, then the administrative number has the benefit. If we are gonna confuse people by having two numbers, I'd rather just shift everything to 911. So I guess you hear better
Yeah.
from the community than I do as far as what their concerns are and, reluctance to call 911. Because I'll talk to people and they'll be like, oh, okay, I don't know why, if they're just like appeasing me, but I'm like, 911 for everything. They're like, yeah, absolutely. So if you think that there's gonna be a reluctance to call 911 and we're still gonna have this other, voicemail or number of leaving voicemails for break-ins, identity theft, things like that, then yeah, maybe we do push it all to 911. The other option is we try it, I don't know what the expense is, and then say in 6 months we can evaluate it, because that'll actually be better, because if we have one number versus 6 voicemails, we can manage that a little bit better.
And then there would just be one, so that everyone wouldn't have their independent voicemail.
I mean, so we would still have the voicemails, I guess, attached to that, but I could track, I'm assuming they would be able to tell me how many people called that number and when.
I see.
But, yeah, versus now, it's just the borough number.
My question would be, step one is, can we get the number? Even if we get the number and go through that process, we don't actually have to do anything with it yet.
Right.
So I think that, first step, there's gonna be a cost, there's probably not gonna be that much of a cost, I would imagine, but I don't know. Everything is digital these days, so they're usually able to figure that out fairly well. I would say go with it still.
You would
Go with
say,
me.
I'd say you would, so
Having
all in
different
favor of making the recommendation for a police, just let's do a straw poll before I finish the motion. All in favor of making the recommendation that the police have a unique administrative number? Let's start there.
Aye.
Aye. And you're opposed.
I'm not opposed, I like these steps, so and we.
Right, that's the first step.
Okay.
Next question just for this purpose of straw poll.
So I'm not putting this in the minutes yet.
Sure. All in favor of implementing the phone number for a 6-month trial?
Probably
evaluate.
say aye, but hesitantly.
So let's,
I would be an aye, because I'm assuming that we would work out the wording in the presentation.
With the 48-hour line, like if you're leaving a message, like I call them,
Not
like,
from anyone for 48 hours, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. We will not be getting back to you.
I mean, right now people are calling the borough office anyway.
right,
So to drive them to call the police that we can actually control the messaging in a much better way
that's exactly right.
helps.
I mean, it's the first place I look, if I wanna reach the police department, I go to the police website and say, how do I call the police department,
That's what I do with Lower Marion all the time.
And
Yeah.
I keep coming back to, we have community policing, like we have a police force, and our police force needs to be not just doing policing, it needs to be meeting the needs of the community. And if we're getting these calls and people aren't able to reach you and they feel like they need to, like that's the little touch that we want from a community, is that everyone. gets what they need. Okay, so now having that established, I can make if I can revise the motion. So the recommendation to Borough Council, to Police, Public Health and Safety would be one, that that we shore up the phone tree, and two, that the police get a unique number administrative number that we implement for a trial of 6 months. Okay, is there a second for that motion?
A second.
Okay. All in favor of the motion? Aye. Any opposition? Okay. Great. I will draft that for them. It's 8:17. I do want to try to end the meeting by 8:30. The discussion, it's actually a single discussion item. It's kind of two. But I went back to the charge that we were given to see, like, is there anything else that we should be working on right now? And one of the things that is specific is under review of police practices, policies, and messaging is regularly review the high-level community police data. And the last time we reviewed the police data was when we first started. So that would have been, I think, 2023 data that we reviewed. So
I think the last time we talked about it, I think we said, one, that a lot of the data was brand new, and I think it continues to evolve.
right.
But I think we were gonna look at it after we had the 2024 data complete,
I
so
think that's right.
is
So
that
that's the
it?
question.
is 2024 data at a position that we could take a look at it and compare it to 23?
Yes. And I don't remember what I gave you last time as far as the format, but
You weren't even the one who was before you even got to us that we got the data, so
I gave you something else that you.
You did give us something after you.
Yeah.
Is that?
that's fine, because I can compare that, we can compare that. Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Has there been a change in reporting data given what's going on the federal level?
No, so, I mean, UCR's old format, there's this new format called NIVERS, it's been around forever, and they're trying to push everyone to it, but the mandate keeps getting pushed back because there's not enough, like training and the record systems aren't up to date and all that. Now, the new one we just got can do it, so,
Okay,
but,
Whatever you give, if it's possible to re-give 2023 in the same format, knowing that it's not necessarily comparing apples and apples, because presumably they coded stuff in a whole different way, and I know the whole system changes. It just might be nice to look at them next to each other.
recognizing that there's many other things that happen in our lives and in the police department. If we could get this done before the next meeting, not to be analyzed by the next meeting, but reported by the next meeting, that would be great.
absolutely.
Okay. And Ken, and then you'll just let me know whether you're able to pull it together before then.
Can I tell, do you actually receive faxes?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, that's the only separate number on the borough website for the police, is the police have a fax number. Okay.
If you want your roof redone, we get a fax every day for some roofing company.
So, do you get other faxes?
We do get other ones, so yes.
Is there like
Does it serve a
police
purpose?
stuff done by
Yeah.
fax?
Yeah, apparently faxing is still considered a acceptable way to transfer confidential information.
Okay,
So,
that makes sense.
That makes no sense.
I don't know.
No, but my doctors.
I know they do it, but I'm saying, like, anyone pulls up, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so
But
we
is
get,
it coming through electronically? I mean, or is it actually printing out?
no, it comes through the email somehow. And then if I want to fax something, I have to email to this number, like, an
Right.
email address.
Right.
so there
How
might be
is
a line that
confidential
exists
coming from the email?
that could be used.
It's right, exactly. It strikes me that an actual fax that you go and you put the sheet in and it transmits it is in fact non-hackable. But if you're emailing it, then that's anyways.
Yeah, but I get it in my email.
Now you're outside of my.
Well,
Just curious, because I'm seeing that number.
That's what I do.
based off a question that you just asked, are there any questions that we have or want to have or should have about how the local police would work with ICE if they come into the area? I don't know that's sort of a jump from what we said, but you had said something about, I think you said about with all the new federal stuff.
I did, I said that.
Uh-huh.
I would say that if we want to have that conversation, since it's like, outside of our charge, we should probably put it as an agenda item and have the mayor here in addition
Great.
to answer that.
And maybe
because that's
research what other municipalities are dealing with.
I mean, to me, that's a direct
Yeah.
directive, a mayor directive.
Great.
I think it's an important question, certainly. So we have as a discussion item other projects from the charge. I did not identify any. I think we have enough on our plate right now, but I put that as an action item just to remind us that that's sort of what we need to go back to as our guiding document for what work we should be doing. Does anyone have anything else that they want to add that we should be addressing?
I just have a question.
Please.
Because my assignment that I do was to, and I want to make sure you still want me to do this. I'm trying to find it. Was to check on the other municipality websites and compare them. Let's see. Look at other municipal web pages for FAQs. But it sounds like Katie has done a lot of that. Do you want me to still do that, or do you feel like you've done sufficient?
I haven't recently I only noted a couple of things I saw in passing.
Okay.
So feel free to take a deeper dive.
Okay.
And then we can keep talking about like our ongoing document that we have.
Well, what would be beneficial, I think, is I was guided to the borough council minutes when the company that's doing our webpage was contracted, I guess is the right way of saying it. Maybe he's trying to look at their work and the municipalities that they handle might give us.
Do you know what that company is, or how will I find that?
It's in the borough council meeting notes
Okay.
from, I don't remember when that was an action item.
Okay.
And if you need help finding it, just let me
Sure.
know. I may have the name company name written down.
Okay.
So I just started putting it together yesterday, so I know everybody hasn't had time to look at it, but like I have started to put some notes about things that we could borrow from.
Excellent.
That were like,
Thank you.
so as like, I really looked at like almost every township in Montgomery County and some of the boroughs as well. And a lot of them, they're doing the confusing thing of listing 911 and a police number, and they're not really differentiating like what is what. But I tried to take away from a few places that did have some good differentiation. If we're looking for examples of language to use, I mean, I like your idea of like, if you don't want to hear from anybody for 48 hours. But like, we could like, do we want to say we're an in progress incident? Like, so in progress is a phrase that a lot of departments use, or for immediate assistance is another phrase. If we're trying to get away from saying the word emergency, because that's confusing or conjures up flashing lights, there are other phrases. So like,
If you need to speak with a police officer
that's another,
sooner than
yeah.
48 hours,
Right.
please call 911.
So I kind of grouped some of those together.
And that's on the document?
Yeah, and I also suggested some language because we might, I mean, right now, the police department page is very bare, as you know. But if we want to have a little language, we can explain like, we're a small borough, we rely on Montgomery County's 911 system to field calls for service from within the borough, right? Because that is they are fielding calls. And then if you're ever in doubt of whether a situation is an emergency, you should call 911. It's better to be safe and let the 911 dispatcher determine if you need emergency assistance. And if you're calling regarding a non-emergency or a situation that is past or not in progress, the dispatcher will determine how to direct your call. Like, I feel like we could have some language around that. We could even link to, so Montgomery County has a fun live blotter. Because I know we've talked about like, oh, LM has a blotter, that's so cool. Narberth doesn't need one, it's, Montgomery County already has it. So if anyone's really curious if something's happening in Narberth right now, it was
Are you able
always
to-
into the live
Are
blotter.
you able to sort it by district or no? I didn't
So
watch.
that's what I'm trying to figure out because.
Can you send us that link? I haven't seen.
I did,
Are you
I put it in the thing, and like right now, you can look at it and there are, there's a map of incidents, there's a fire incident in Cheltenham, there's, an EMS incident in Upper Merritt, like, I don't see really any police incidents, it's all like traffic, EMS, or, or fire, so,
I'm sorry, the link is on the Google Doc.
yeah, but if there's I feel like if we make our website a little more informative and people see how all this stuff works, that will make people happy also.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the Montgomery County page had some good language too around like calling 911, like if you're not sure you have an emergency, call 911, explain your problem to the call taker. If you call 911 by accident, don't hang up. When the call taker answers, explain that you called by mistake and that you do not have an emergency. So like, I feel like some of that we can push out to, like if we have a little explainer about 911. Anyway, so that's some stuff I put together.
This is great.
But I did take some notes on like what I was seeing on other police department web pages, but I didn't put all of it in here. I tried to just put in.
I absolutely think we should link to this blotter.
It's a good blotter, right?
Great
And there's
blotter.
even a little map.
Yeah.
The map is fun. You act,
511 PA is the traffic call.
if you view the map, there are 3 fire events, 14 medical events, and 9 traffic events.
This is great. Thanks for.
I could look at this all day.
I have a question for all of you, because you're a younger generation, and when I moved to Narberth, 40 years ago.
There you are. I'll take it.
So I never was involved at all. I was busy raising my family and working part-time, etc. So I never even investigated what does a barrel mean. I didn't. And so my question is this something that is more common among younger people who live in Narberth, who are doing this, like, more understanding of what it means to live in Narberth and in a borough, and what's different and what we have to do as citizens? I don't know. You're involved in this.
I'm sorry, is this about the police specifically or?
Like with what we're doing, and like, do you have anecdotal information?
I don't know. I think most people operate on a low information level around what our governance is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think about half the people recognize that Narberth is a separate borough and half the people think it's part of Lower Merion.
Okay.
Yeah, I still argue with people about 19072 and whether that means you're in Narberth or not.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Based on that, I feel like, yeah, most people aren't like hyper aware. Anyway, I have to also.
Yeah, so with that,
Sorry.
does anyone have anything else? All right, motion to adjourn, anyone?
I move to adjourn.
A second?
Yeah, a second it.
All in favor? All right. So adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll get you that.
Thank you.
All right, perfect.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.